Okay, here we are once again. So let's continue our investigation into some intermediate masking techniques. I'm in DeviantArt here, and I found this landscape by the user Cyborg Susie. It's actually a print screen in Photoshop because my browser isn't being recorded by the recording software for some reason, so I'll close this image. And we'll also be using one of a sky set of images also found on DeviantArt by a user by the name of here Miss Stark. So credit where it's due. I'll not save them. So there's the image there, and when I looked at this image, the first thing I thought was it would make a pretty good black and white image, and B, obviously all good landscapes need a decent sky. The sky's a bit weak, and we can certainly replace that with our masking knowledge and techniques to have a much more broody sky for the black and white. So let's make our masks. Let's have a look at the channels. Now, without looking at the channels, you should be able to guess which channel the sky is going to be brightest in. Being blue, it will be the blue channel. But I'm going to press Control 1 on the keyboard, that's the red channel. Control 2 on the keyboard, that's the green. And Control 3 on the keyboard there, that's the blue channel. And as you can see there, if I go to the channels, the blue channel's selected, that's the green and the red. So the blue is going to make the best mask. Let's copy that channel. Control L on the keyboard there. And I'll just watch the sky as I'm doing this, just to get the sky to white, and then we can darken that foreground off. I've managed to get a higher resolution picture here to work with. In my previous videos, the problem we're working with just internet Google images or DeviantArt images, they're very low resolution, and that presents more difficulty in obtaining a nice, sharp, good mask. If you follow these movies but use your own high resolution files, the edges of the mask, which are the important parts of the mask, the edge detail, will be much better quality and easier to obtain some very nice sharp edge detail to the mask. This image is slightly higher res to the images compared to the images we've been using so far, so I should be able to get a slightly better quality mask with that. I'm going to click OK. That's masked the sky. Let's just take care of the foreground. I've got the marquee tool here, so let's just, if I hold the shift key down, and I can add to that marquee selection, and black's in the background, so from the keyboard, Control Backspace, that fills that with black. I'll drop that with Control D on the keyboard. Let's just zoom in. The way I access the zoom tool on the fly, and this will become habit if you do this, is to press the Control key and the space bar down. That's Control key and the space bar, and then click and drag an area with the mouse, and then you can see you zoom straight in. Filter, blur, and let's add some blurring there to the edge of what will become the selection. And as you know, if you've been watching the previous movies, the reason we do this is so that we can choke the mask later on should we need to. And usually when we're replacing skies, 9 times out of 10 you'll have to choke the mask. So I'll click OK there. I'm just going to check a bit of the detail on this mask there. Get the brush tool, that was B on the keyboard. I'll switch over to black. And in fact, I don't think I'll bother. I don't think the mask needs tidying up. These gaps are the gaps in the trees that would see through to the new sky anyway, so I'll zoom out. So that's our mask ready and waiting. It's been prepared. Let's click on the RGB channels and back to the layers. I'll double click the layer, click OK. That unlocks the background. Let's load channel number 4 as a selection. Control Alt and number 4 on the keyboard. And there we go. Let's add the mask. Masks need inverting at the moment. Control I on the keyboard, and there you can see we've dropped the sky out, although albeit temporarily on the fly. It's only being hidden from us with the mask. As you can see in the thumbnail image, we haven't deleted anything, the sky's still there, and that's the beauty of working this way around. Very flexible, very dynamic. Let's find a new sky. As I say, I've downloaded one earlier from DeviantArt there, and let's look for something really heavy and broody. There we go. In fact, let me just close that sky down. That's the way I've been doing it so far in these training movies, but there's another way to place images, and you may find this easier. Actually makes more sense. File, and if I just click on the image itself rather than having the mask selected, make sure the image is selected. If I go to File and Place, then we can place the image in. That may be easier for you to understand. So that will come in that way. We may be able to, no, let's just move this into place there. It's already got the control handles on, so I'm simply going to drag out and drag out a little beneath, a little bit more than what we need. In a moment I'll hit the enter key, and that's now being placed and transformed. Of course it wants to be below, so drag the layer below there. And that in itself actually is quite a nice sky, and the colours in the sky actually, it kind of match the image in a way, and almost instantly we've improved that image as a landscape. But I did mention earlier on I thought that this would make a good black and white image, so I'm going to click on the top layer, and over everything I'm going to insert the black and white filter. Now I'm not going to adjust this at the moment, I'm just going to click OK, just so you can have a look. We can go back and adjust that later, and that's looking fine up to now. The next step is to have a look at the edges of the tree line and decide whether we need to choke the mask. Don't forget to zoom in. To access the zoom tool from the keyboard on the fly, Control and Spacebar. I'll click and drag the mouse and really zoom into the edge of the mask there, and you can see that slight halo glow effect. That's because the mask needs choking. I'll click on the mask there, press Control L on the keyboard, and let's just choke that mask in a little and zoom out, Control minus on the keyboard, and there we go, that's done a really nice job. Let me show you something else we're going to do to the mask. Let me zoom back in there. Now that we've choked into that softened edge of the mask and we've got the mask contracted and sized up the way we want it, we should go back and sharpen the edge of that mask. So if we go to Filter, Sharpen and Unsharp Mask, and you'll see that filter kicking in there. It's now sharpened the edge of the mask up nicely. That was before, that's after. And if we zoom out there, Control minus on the keyboard, there we go, that's done a nice job. I'll just press Control Z while we've done that and undo. Let's just zoom in a little. I may have gone too heavy with the sharpening there. Control Z, that's without the sharpening. And that's with the sharpening. If I go to Control Z, that's with the sharpening. Control Alt F, Control Alt and F. That takes us back to the sharpening filter. Control Shift F, sorry. If you press Control Shift F, that allows us to reduce the strength of the last applied filter, and our last filter was sharpening, so I'm just going to reduce the strength of that sharpening just a little, cut it in half almost. There we go, it's a nice little tip for you there. So your last filter, after you've applied the filter, Control Shift F on the keyboard will bring up that little dialog box and allow you to fade the strength of the filter, and that's just a nice little tweak there. So that's looking quite nice. Let's deal with the sky now. I'm on the sky there, on the sky layer there. So let's add a curves adjustment layer, and let's just take a look at improving and dramatizing the content of the sky there. Whoops, I don't need that point there. So that's before, that's after. A bit more dramatic there. It's almost like a summer's day with a storm brewing. And let's have a look at the actual landscape now, which is this layer. Don't forget, this is the black and white layer hanging above everything. It's just turning everything black and white. This being our sky layer, I need to clip a curves adjustment layer to this. I'm going to hold down the Alt key while I go for curves, and I can clip that layer. That means this curves layer will only affect the layer it's clipped to, which in our case is the landscape there. I'm going to appear to brighten the whole thing up at the moment, which I am going to, but my purpose is to get these trees a little bit brighter. But to do that, let's just brighten the whole thing up a little. Now don't forget, that's our mask with that curves adjustment we've just made. If I press Ctrl I, I can delete that, not delete it, invert the mask. Let's get the brush tool, the right bracket key, right square bracket key, and let's paint on that mask with white, which should reveal, oops, I've got a hard edge brush there. I'll right click with the brush and make sure we're working with a soft brush. That doesn't seem to have applied itself correctly there. Oops, I've got the wrong tool, sorry, I need the brush, there we go. Let's right click, we've got a nice soft brush, I'll right click with the square bracket key, and there we go. Let's paint some brightening in just to the top of these trees. Now it's looking too bright at the moment, but again the beauty of working this way is this layer has got an opacity setting which we can just back off on, and there we go. So that's, oops, wrong layer, that's done the job nicely. That's before, that's after. You see, it's just that nice little bit of sharpening. Let's go back to the curves layer and just add to that there, as if the sun streaking through the clouds is picking up the tree line there. And I think this is really looking quite dramatic now. There's not much more we need to do to this. I'm just looking at the sky layer, and something that's annoying me about this sky are these little bits here, which are, and that bit there is taking my eye away. I'm going to press Ctrl and minus on the keyboard to zoom out. Now then, because we placed the sky into the image earlier, it comes in, and anything you use the place command will come in as what's known, if you can see this symbol here, as a smart object. Now we're going to have to convert from a smart object into an ordinary rasterized layer, because I'm about to use the transform tool, and if this layer remains as a smart object, it will not allow us to go into perspective mode from the transform. It will only allow you to scale once something's a smart object. So we don't need it to be a smart object any longer. I'll right click and I'll choose rasterize, and you can see that symbol's gone now. It's just a normal pixel data rasterized layer. That being done, I can press Ctrl T on the keyboard, and if I now press Ctrl Shift and Alt and hold those keys down, I can get some perspective going on the sky there, and I'll maybe raise this up a little, and I'll hit the enter key, and that's just taking those nasty bits out of the way there, bits that were taking my eye away from the main portions of the image. I like the look of this now, so let's go to the layer menu and choose flatten the image. And let's just run a little action I've got stored, which I made for myself to create a burning vignette to the outside. I'm going to play that action now, which will look something like this. Now this action will do two things actually. It will blur the outside edge of the image and also allow me to darken it. I don't need the blurring, so I'm going to turn that off, but I do want to apply this burning vignette like so. And I think what we'll do is, just to finish, and again let me flatten the image, and just overall let me apply another curves adjustment layer just to get a little bit more out of the highlights, a bit more drama there. And without that, it is looking a tiny bit flat, I think. I'll merge that down with this layer, Ctrl E, or you could have gone to the layer menu and flattened. And just a couple more things. There's some highlighted bits that are showing up here, which are again taking my eye away. So let's go for the burn tool for the midtones on quite a strong amount there. And let's just kind of burn along the edge there just to get rid of those. And there's a little bit up the top there. And you can go on tweaking and playing forever, but there we go. I'll copy the background layer, Control J, and let's just apply some localized contrast, filter, sharpen, unsharp mask. And there we go. I'll leave it as it is, being applied really heavy, so I'll click OK. That's far too much really, but I mean, you can see the dramatic effect that that's created. I think it's just a bit too strong, so let's just back off slightly to about 60% there. And there we go. I'll hit the Tab key to drop all the menus out the way and let you have a look at that image. If I press F12 on the keyboard, that reverts the file to its original, and I'll press Ctrl Z to undo that. So there's the original, and there's our finished high contrast, nice black and white version. I hope you like that rendition, and I hope you've been able to follow along there, and hope you can apply those principles to some of your own images.